I know Iranians are very, thankful for Israelis and the IDF and everything they're doing now and also what they did, in the 12-day war last year. What was their point of view of Israel before before all of this? Before 12-day war, before everything? Like, were they really pro-Israel? Were they really that I don't know. Just curious, what was the general feeling?
That's actually a very good question.
I'm just
So
curious. I
it
mean, in
is.
school, Armin, in school, when you were in school, like, were you guys brainwashed to hate us, to hate Jews, to feel a certain way?
Let me just find something. If I could find something for you, because you might find this very interesting. I don't know if I could find it. Um. Oh, there you go. Found it. Found it. Okay. Oh, it's actually Goldie sharing it. Good. Goldie saved us. All right. So let me explain this, and then I'll share the video. So yeah, when I grew up in Iran, yes, we were told to hate Israel. Israel was considered to be pure evil. I remember a couple of times we went into the schoolyard because the part of the some of the school programming. We went out into this schoolyard and we burned the Israeli flag a couple of times. And we always, like, I remember many times chanting "Death to Israel" as part of our school teaching. Going into the streets, we were chanting that. I specifically remembering not at all thinking much about it, and nobody else, I think, thought much about it, like, around us. Um, what you have to understand is that most Iranian students have resisted the school programming because, there's a minority of Iranians who what they are told in school matches what they're told at home. But me and many other Iranian students, what we were told at school was completely in contradiction of what our understanding of the world was when we went home. So, given we considered so much of what the school was teaching us to be bullshit, we assumed that everything else was also bullshit. Like, we didn't take it very seriously. So, I remember, for example, specifically when we were burning the Israeli flag, we were just excited to burn something. Like, we were boys that wanted to set something on fire. Like, it had nothing to do with, like, hating Israel or not. Like, I remember chanting "Death to Israel" for many years of my life in Iran. Not a single one of those times I was feeling anything negative towards Israel. It's just a thing that you would do. Like, it wasn't like we were feeling something positive towards Israel, but we weren't also feeling anything negative towards Israel most of the time, right? We just knew that this is supposed to be pure evil, but whatever. Like, it's just like school stuff, right? It's just school stuff that you don't bring it home and you don't care about it at home, right? But that was originally the case, that we just didn't care about it that much. We did associate the word Israel and the flag of Israel with something evil, but it's not something that occupied our mind that much, at least with my personal experience and all my friends, right? But then the more we grew up and the more we hated the Islamic Republic, the more we ended up learning not to hate the things that the Islamic Republic hates, because we hate the Islamic Republic. So we can't hate the things that the Islamic Republic hates, right? So then the attitude of Iranians turned more towards, you know, not pro Israel and anti Palestine, but it slowly moved towards, we don't give a shit. Like, that is, we don't know what's happening there, but that's none of our business. And this whole Palestine shit is like, we're tired of hearing it. And even if Israel is doing something evil somewhere else, and these poor Palestinian people, that has nothing to do with us. Like, this whole Palestine narrative is just the excuse of the Islamic Republic to keep talking about things that has nothing to do with Iranians, right? So we were like, we don't care if there's a genocide there over there. Like, keep your our government. You're supposed to focus on us. So we started seeing chants that had nothing to do with being pro-Israeli, but it had we started seeing chants that was against the regime, suggesting that forget about Gaza and Lebanon. Like, I don't care, right? So this was at the time when we started seeing the chants "Na Gaza, na Lebanon, Janam Fado Iran." So it wasn't as extreme as the chants that we see now, which says "Parcham Palestino Bokun Tukunet," which means shove the Palestinian flag up your ass. That's a very famous chant right now in Iran. But it was more the beginning of it saying "Na Gaza, na Lebanon, Jannah Fada Iran," which means neither Gaza nor Lebanon, my life for Iran. Right? So there was the beginning parts of it. But we also saw not a love for Israel, but a refusal to be anti-Israeli. So this is the video I wanted to show you, and this video was years before we had anything like before the Mahsa revolution, before the current uprisings. Let me show you this video. I forgot what year it is, but I remember this was years before any of this happened, right? And they like the Islamic Republic, this is a common thing that the Islamic Republic does. They paint the flags of United States and Israel on the ground so that university students walk on it as a way to show disrespect to the American and Israelis. And look at these university students. Really, you can see everybody was going around it, refusing to step on the flag. And remember, this is not a new video. This is a very old video. So when these two people decided to walk on them, like you could see that they look more Basiji than others, right? Everybody started booing them. What? Kaja? Oh! So they start shouting "Be Sharaf," dishonorable on them. Up, 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 shut up. So this was a beginning of something very big, like people, university students shouting dishonorable to people who were walking on American Israel and Israeli flags, right? I mean, there were so many examples of this. This became an act of disobedience all over Iran, where like not stepping on Israeli flag became a huge trend in Iran years before any of this happening. I saw a new modern version of that. Like a lot of Iranians love to show the ways that they avoid stepping on the Israeli flag. This girl came up with a more unique way of doing it. On the podium. Better way in rules. Better way. بدون كارسنس بيوري كارتو تبعني يستودج تبعني باري. Yeah, so this is like there's so many videos like this in Iran where Iranians refuse to step on the Israeli flag. But that was years ago. Eventually, when we move forward, what happened was like I was making on my Persian channel, I was one of the first people who came out in defense of Israel. I was I was not one of the, I think I was the first person, the content creator that went beyond not attacking Israel to actually come and say I defend Israel. I have a show earlier than any Iranian content creator in Persian saying why I am a Zionist. And that was a big radical move at this time because even Iranian people have learned not to be against the word Israel, but the word Zionist was still something that seemed like to be a negative thing. And even so many of my followers were like, Armin, like you're going crazy. Aren't you atheist? How could you be a Zionist? But then eventually October 7th happened. And October 7th was the main event that turned Iranians very, very pro-Israeli, very pro-Israeli. And more Iranians came out, and I got a lot of support after that because so many Iranians were like, Armin was right to say he's a Zionist, and I'm a Zionist too. So many Iranians were more comfortable to come and support Zionism. But then Nasrallah was killed, and that made more Iranians celebrate Israel. Oh, also a huge event. Actually, this is one of the most important events that made Iranians pro-Israeli is Princess of Pahlavi's travel to Israel and meeting with Netanyahu. That made the pro-Pahlavi people, that opened a floodgate of pro-Pahlavi people starting to support Israel and starting waving the flag of Israel wherever they go. That was basically a lot of people. That to me, it seemed like a lot of Iranians wanted to be pro-Israeli, but it was kind of a taboo. And Princess of Pahlavi just gave them the permission to go all out. And as soon as they had the taboo was broken, it just opened a floodgate of pro-Israeli viewpoints from Iranians. But then after that, we had the 12-day war. So this is like the evolution of Iranian people falling more in love with Israel during the 12-day war. So many, like we were sleeping, we woke up and like so many of the heads of RGC were dead. Like we were sleeping and they were alive, and then we woke up and then they were dead. And we were like, holy shit. Like more Iranians fell in love with Israel because of that. And like in Israel, in a matter of hours, achieved what we couldn't have done in decades. But then all of a sudden, Israel did the ultimate thing and they killed Khamenei. And before Israel killed Ali Khamenei, the Iranian people were learning to love Israel. But after Israel killed Ali Khamenei, they went from loving Israel to worshiping Israel. Like there's, I don't know if people could understand the relation, the level of gratefulness that the Iranian people have for Israel right now because it was an Israeli fighter jet. This was a dream come true for so many Iranians, and an Israeli fighter jet did that. And after that, like the bond, I think now we have an unbreakable bond between the Iranian people and Israelis. And also, many Iranians now, because of all of these things, are recognizing the ancient bonds that we had. And Iranians are obsessed with their ancient history. And now that all of this is happening, they're rediscovering, they're going back to talking about how Iranians and Israelis were connected with each other throughout history. So that is also reemerging and something to celebrate. I don't know. Did I answer your question, by the way?
Yes, you definitely did. I guess for me, I just wanted to know like how far back it goes because you have this like hero, Israel saving the day and whatever. So that I understand why you guys would love us, but I didn't know what the feelings were prior to that. And it's very interesting because in school you're literally like being taught this hate and everything, and at home it's a different story. But then you have Western countries who have zero like propaganda, brainwashing at school, but yet they still, have reasons to hate us. So anyways,
Definitely
very
not zero.
I
fascinating.
wouldn't say I wouldn't say they have zero propaganda at school. I think they have they have a more effective way propaganda anti-Israeli propaganda at school.
Right. Yeah. Well, they're not burning Israeli flags as part of, typical school day, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Anyways, thank you, Armin. I really enjoy hearing your like personal like experience and testimonial. And, like it's interesting to see what you've been through and how your perspective changed.